Craig Bellamy versus John Arne Riise. Picture this. You're about to face Barcelona in the Champions League. Your team's staying at a luxury hotel in Portugal. Instead of tactical meetings, you hear shouting from the hotel room next door. Then, you see your teammate grab a golf club and swing it at another teammate's legs. That actually happened. And it gets darker. February 2007. Liverpool's Champions League campaign was hanging by a thread. The night before their crucial tie with Barcelona, Craig Bellamy and John Arne Riise got into an argument over karaoke at their team hotel. What started as punishment for lying about missing the Christmas party turned brutal when Bellamy later went into Riise's hotel room while he was sleeping, grabbed an 8-iron golf club and started swinging. Riise later revealed, "He tried to hit my shins, which could have ended my career, but I managed to pull my leg away in time," Riise said years later. The Norwegian left-back was left battered and shaken, using bedsheets like a matador to defend himself from the club-wielding Welshman. The twisted part? 3 days later, Bellamy scored against Barcelona and celebrated by mimicking a golf swing in front of 90,000 fans at Camp Nou. The Welsh striker was literally mocking his assault on live television. Even worse, Riise scored the winning goal with his right foot, the only one of his career after a Bellamy assist. In that moment of pure euphoria, with adrenaline pumping and the away end roaring, both players celebrated together like nothing had happened. But the scars ran deeper than the celebration suggested. Riise later called Bellamy's golf swing celebration disrespectful and questioned whether his apology was even sincere. Despite sharing that magical moment on the pitch, the two could never be friends again. Some betrayals leave wounds that even victory can't heal. Boca Juniors versus River Plate. November 2018, the Copa Libertadores final, South America's biggest match, the Super Clásico that splits Buenos Aires down class lines. Boca represents the working class, River represents the elite. But this rivalry runs deeper than you think. Both clubs were born in the same grimy docklands of La Boca, River in 1901, Boca in 1905. Then in 1925, River abandoned their roots, moving to the wealthy Núñez district. They became Los Millonarios, the millionaires. Boca stayed put, becoming the People's Club. The hatred exploded from day one. Their first official match in 1913 saw River win 2-1. Since then, these two clubs have commanded over 70% of all Argentine football fans. And the violence? It's been deadly. June 23, 1968. After a scoreless Super Clásico, 71 fans were crushed to death at Gate 12 of River Stadium. Most were teenagers. Average age, just 19. The gate was blocked. Fans at the back couldn't hear those at the front screaming to stop pushing. It remains Argentine football's worst disaster. Fast forward to 2015. During a Copa Libertadores match, River players were pepper sprayed by Boca fans at half-time. The game was abandoned. River advanced anyway. But November 2018 topped everything. What happened next became international news for all the wrong reasons. River Plate fans attacked Boca's team bus with rocks, bottles, and pepper spray. Boca players were hospitalized. The match was postponed, then postponed again. Finally, CONMEBOL made an unprecedented decision. The biggest derby in South America would be played in Madrid, in Spain. Imagine the shame. Argentina couldn't host its own final because the violence was too intense. "It was humiliating for our country," said former Boca president Daniel Angelici. "The world was watching, and we showed them chaos instead of football." River won the final 3-1 at the Bernabeu, but the victory felt hollow. The Super Clásico had been exported to another country because Buenos Aires couldn't contain its own hatred. Zlatan Ibrahimovic versus Rafael van der Vaart. Ajax 2004. Two rising stars, one dressing room, and a feud that would split the Netherlands' biggest club. During an international match, Zlatan Ibrahimovic caught Rafael van der Vaart with a challenge that left the Dutch midfielder injured and furious. Van der Vaart accused Zlatan of doing it deliberately. "He tried to break my leg," Van der Vaart told Dutch media. That wasn't an accident. When they returned to Ajax, the tension exploded. Van der Vaart called Zlatan out in a team meeting with manager Ronald Koeman. According to multiple multiple teammates, Zlatan's response was pure menace. "If you accuse me again, I'll break both your legs, and that time it will be on purpose." The threat worked temporarily, but the damage was done. Van der Vaart later admitted, "We had big arguments. From my point of view, he was very arrogant. I had a big ego. We were both young." The Ajax squad was split between those who feared Zlatan and those who resented his intimidation tactics. Within weeks, the club faced an ultimatum. One of them had to go. Zlatan was sold to Juventus for €16 million just 2 days after their final confrontation. One threat, one transfer. One reminder that the biggest conflicts happen inside the same club. Keane versus Patrick Vieira. Their rivalry began the moment Vieira arrived at Arsenal in 1996. Keane was already a United legend with 3 Premier League titles. Patrick Vieira was the unknown midfielder from AC Milan who dared to challenge English football's most feared captain. For 9 seasons, they battled like gladiators. They faced each other 20 times across all competitions, neither giving an inch. Of those 9 seasons, either Keane's United or Vieira's Arsenal won the Premier League title 8 times. This wasn't just football, this was personal warfare. Every match was a bloodbath. Red cards flew, tackles bordered on assault, and referee Graham Poll once joked he needed riot gear just to control them. 7 red cards were shown in Arsenal United matches during their peak rivalry years. The hatred reached its peak in February 2005. Arsenal versus Manchester United at Highbury. Before kickoff, cameras captured something that would define English football's most bitter rivalry. In the tunnel, Patrick Vieira was targeting Gary Neville, warning him about rough tackles from previous matches. Keane wasn't having it. The United captain stormed over, got in Vieira's face and screamed, "We'll see you out there!" The exchange was caught live on television, and suddenly millions of viewers were witnessing pure hatred in real time. This wasn't just captains protecting teammates. This was 9 years of accumulated venom finally spilling over. Keane later admitted his philosophy: "I wanted to hurt him. Not just beat him, hurt him." The match itself became secondary to the psychological warfare happening in the tunnel. United won 4-2 that day, but the moment lived forever. Yet today, something remarkable has happened. These 2 warriors who once tried to destroy each other now sit together on the overlap, laughing about their battles like old war veterans sharing stories. The hatred that once consumed them has transformed into mutual respect. The Old Firm. Few rivalries cut as deep as Celtic versus Rangers. The Old Firm isn't just football. It's Catholic versus Protestant, Irish identity versus British unionism, centuries of cultural conflict played out on a pitch in Glasgow. Celtic was founded in 1887 by Irish Catholic immigrants. Rangers became the Protestant working class team almost by accident. But when Belfast shipyard workers flooded Glasgow in the 1910s, they brought sectarian hatred with them. Rangers adopted an unofficial policy banning Catholic players that lasted until the 1980s. The violence is staggering. After Celtic's 1980 Scottish Cup final victory, hundreds of fans battled on the pitch with bottles, cans and iron bars. In 1995, tragedy struck when 16-year-old Celtic fan Mark Scott was murdered by a Rangers supporter who targeted him at random. His mother had warned him to hide his Celtic jersey. He laughed and said, "They don't do that kind of thing anymore." But they did. Matches have ended in riots, referee strikes, even political fallout. Former Celtic striker John Hartson once said, "Walking into Ibrox felt like entering enemy territory. You genuinely feared for your safety." The hostility runs so deep that players have admitted to receiving death threats. In 2011, Celtic manager Neil Lennon was sent parcel bombs packed with nails by Rangers supporters. His family needed 24-hour police protection. Fans have been banned from away matches multiple times. UEFA even threatened to expel both clubs from European competition unless they controlled their supporters. The Old Firm shows how football can become a proxy for generations of hatred. These documented historical events remind us why this rivalry remains too dark and too complex for Netflix to ever truly unpack. Some wounds run deeper than sport. Diego Costa versus everyone. Diego Costa built his career on being football's ultimate antagonist, but his 2015 clash with Gabriel Paulista showed just how far he could push the mind games. During Chelsea's visit to Arsenal, Costa systematically wound up the entire team. First, he shoved and clawed at Laurent Koscielny, forcing him to the ground with his chest. Then he targeted Gabriel, who eventually snapped and flicked a boot in retaliation. Gabriel was sent off. Arsenal fans erupted, calling it injustice, while Chelsea celebrated their 2-0 victory. But the story had a twist. Gabriel's red card was later rescinded after video evidence showed he made no contact, while Costa was banned for 3 matches for violent conduct. The FA had seen through his theatrics. That was just one chapter in Costa's reign of chaos. His feud with Liverpool's Martin Skrtel began during international duty when Slovakia beat Spain, then exploded at Anfield with constant shirt-pulling and shoving. He once appeared to kick Skrtel and stamp on Emre Can's ankle. At Manchester City, he met his match in Vincent Kompany, the only defender who seemed immune to his tricks, earning Costa's grudging respect. Costa even brawled with teammates in training and was caught on camera trying to stick his fingers in opponents' mouths. Former Arsenal manager Arsene Wenger called him a specialist in provoking opponents. Costa didn't just play football. He turned every match into a mental battle, dragging opponents into his world of chaos. He was booed in every stadium, yet feared everywhere. That was Diego Costa's legacy, making enemies wherever he went. Fenerbahce versus Galatasaray. Some rivalries transcend sport. In Istanbul, when Fenerbahce faces Galatasaray, you're not just watching football, you're witnessing a city tear itself apart across 2 continents. The Intercontinental Derby has produced scenes that Netflix couldn't script. Violence has stalked this fixture for decades. In 2013, 19-year-old Fenerbahce fan Burak Yildirim was killed by a Galatasaray supporter after a match. The tragic death of a teenager over football rivalry shocked the world. But the chaos extends beyond the terraces. Jose Mourinho's arrival at Fenerbahce has exposed what he claims is systematic corruption. In 2025, he declared it was impossible to win the league title, alleging the system was rigged. Despite Fenerbahce accumulating more points than Galatasaray over 5 years, they won 0 titles while their rivals claimed 2. The situation became so contentious that one opposing team, Adana Demirspor, walked off the pitch mid-game in protest at what they called biased refereeing. Turkish FA officials were caught in leaked WhatsApp messages saying, "We will make him pay," about Mourinho. The entire disciplinary committee resigned in shame. When Mourinho made controversial comments about Galatasaray's bench behaviour, they accused him of racism and sued. He countersued for exactly 1,907,000 Turkish lira, the year Fenerbahce was founded. The hostility runs so deep that players have been chased from stadiums by mobs. Fans light flares that turn the night sky orange, while chants echo across both sides of Istanbul. Referees have needed police escorts to and from matches. This isn't just about football, it's about territory, pride, and a city that lets pure emotion take over. Iker Casillas versus Jose Mourinho. Real Madrid 2012. The most successful club in football history was tearing itself apart from the inside. On one side, captain Iker Casillas, beloved by fans and respected by teammates. On the other, Jose Mourinho, the self-proclaimed special one who trusted no one. The feud erupted after the 2011 Super Cup Clásico, when Mourinho poked Barcelona coach Tito Vilanova in the eye. Casillas called Xavi and Carles Puyol to apologize for the violence, trying to preserve Spanish national team harmony. For Mourinho, this was treason. Mourinho became convinced that Casillas was leaking team information to Barcelona players through his journalist girlfriend, Sara Carbonero. The paranoia consumed him. "I cannot work with people I don't trust," Mourinho told the Spanish press. Casillas was benched for crucial matches, replaced by Diego Lopez. The dressing room split into factions. Sergio Ramos backed his captain. Cristiano Ronaldo stayed loyal to his coach. Spanish media called it a civil war inside Real Madrid's golden era. The breaking point came when Mourinho publicly questioned Casillas' commitment to the club. After sending a text to Brazil's Julio Cesar saying, "You stop more with one arm than Casillas could with 2, the Portuguese had made his feelings clear. In the end, Mourinho left Madrid, but the scars lasted for years. Casillas never fully recovered his status, eventually being whistled by his own fans. The special one's paranoia had poisoned one of football's greatest institutions. Emmanuel Adebayor versus Nicolas Bentner. January 2008, Arsenal vs Tottenham, Carling Cup semi-finals second leg at White Hart Lane. What should have been Arsenal's chance to reach Wembley became one of the most embarrassing moments in the club's history. Emmanuel Adebayor and Nicolas Bendtner had never gotten along. "He's not really my cup of tea," Bendtner later admitted. Their lockers were next to each other, but they barely spoke. The Dane found Adebayor unpredictable and illogical. Cultural clashes and personality differences had been simmering for months. With Arsenal losing 4-1, Adebayor came on as a substitute and immediately blamed Bendtner, shouting, "I'm here because you're playing like shit." During a corner, the teammates started fighting each other. Adebayor headbutted Bendtner, cutting his nose and drawing blood. In front of Tottenham fans, Arsenal's own players were throwing punches at each other. William Gallas had to physically separate them. The image of Arsenal players brawling while losing 5-1 to their biggest rivals became symbolic of everything wrong with the club at the time. "I couldn't believe what I was seeing," said former Arsenal striker Ian Wright. "Your own players fighting each other. It was humiliating." Back in the dressing room, the fight continued. Both players were fined 2 weeks' wages by Arsene Wenger. "We never spoke at Arsenal after that, and haven't ever since," Bendtner revealed years later. To this day, Arsenal fans remember it as one of the club's most bizarre and shameful moments, when losing to Spurs wasn't even the worst thing that happened. Arsenal vs Manchester United. Beyond Roy Keane and Patrick Vieira, these two teams were locked in the rivalry that defined English football from 1990 to 2010. It began with a 21-man brawl in October 1990 that saw both clubs docked points. Arsenal lost 2, United 1. The only time in English history teams were punished for player misconduct. The chaos started when Nigel Winterburn made a lunging tackle on Dennis Irwin. Brian McClare retaliated, Anders Limpar threw punches, and only David Seaman stayed out of the melee. Even Ferguson and Tony Adams had to play peacemakers. Arsene Wenger versus Sir Alex Ferguson became a chess match full of insults, mind games, and pure fury. Ferguson once called Wenger a novice. Wenger responded by calling Ferguson disrespectful and out of order. The peak came in 2004, when United ended Arsenal's 49-game unbeaten run in a match that ended with food flying in the tunnel. Cesc Fabregas allegedly threw pizza at Sir Alex Ferguson's face. Even now, fans still call it Pizzagate. The year before was just as wild. Ruud van Nistelrooy missed a last-minute penalty at Old Trafford, sparking a massive brawl. Martin Keown jumped on Van Nistelrooy, screaming in his face like a man possessed. 8 players were charged by the FA, with Lauren receiving a 4-match ban for kicking Quinton Fortune. These weren't just matches, they were wars disguised as football, and they defined an era when English football meant something more than money. Brazil versus Argentina. When Brazil and Argentina meet, the world stops. From Pelé versus Maradona in the 1970s and 80s to Messi versus Neymar today, this is football's eternal heavyweight clash that transcends sport and becomes about national identity. Copa America games have turned into brawls. The 2019 third-place playoff saw Messi sent off after chest bumping with Chile's Gary Medel, only his second red card ever in 670-plus games for club and country. Messi exploded afterward, claiming the tournament was set up for Brazil and calling it corruption. In 1990, Maradona sparked controversy when Brazilian defender Branco accused Argentina's staff of giving him water laced with tranquilizers during their World Cup clash. Maradona later quipped it was just holy water. Club competitions often feel like proxy wars. When Neymar moved from Barcelona to PSG, Brazilian media claimed he was tired of playing second fiddle to the Argentine. When Messi finally won the 2022 World Cup, Brazilian commentators struggled to hide their disappointment. Even jersey swaps become diplomatic incidents. Cameras always catch who initiates first. In 2023, their World Cup qualifier in Rio turned into chaos when police charged at Argentine fans with batons during the Brazil versus Argentina match, prompting goalkeeper Emi Martinez to physically climb the stadium wall and grab a policeman to stop the violence. The rivalry runs so deep that Dunga, Brazil's 1994 World Cup winning captain, who faced Argentina in multiple finals, once reflected on how these matches carry the weight of continental supremacy. For these nations, it's pride, history, and bragging rights all rolled into 90 minutes. When these titans clash, football becomes war by other means. Some battles are bigger than the game itself. The eternal obsession. Messi versus Ronaldo. For over a decade, Lionel Messi and Cristiano Ronaldo didn't just compete for goals and trophies, they competed for the soul of football itself. Their rivalry was never about violence or confrontation, it was about something deeper: legacy, obsession, and the relentless pursuit of perfection. The early years were brutal in their honesty. Before the 2009 Champions League final, Ronaldo declared, "I always believed I was the best, but it was an honor to become the official number one, and I still think I am at the top." Meanwhile, Messi countered with calculated dismissal. "It doesn't matter if I am better than Cristiano Ronaldo, all that matters is that Barcelona are better than Madrid." By 2012, Ronaldo admitted the obsession was consuming. "Sometimes the comparisons with Messi make me tired. For him too, because they compare us together all the time." But behind the public politeness lay something much darker. In 2014, respected journalist Guillem Balaguer published explosive claims in his Messi biography, alleging that some Real Madrid players revealed Ronaldo privately referred to Messi by using insulting and disrespecting language, and that anyone seen speaking to the Argentine would be labeled the same. Ronaldo furiously denied the allegations, threatening legal action and calling them absolutely false. Yet another biography claimed Ronaldo heats up when watching Messi play, a psychological obsession that consumed him. The pressure of their media-manufactured war took its toll on both players. Messi, famously anxious and known to vomit before big matches, eventually sought professional psychological help during his Barcelona years. "I was very reluctant at first. I'm someone who keeps everything bottled up," he later admitted. "But the truth is, when I went, it did me a lot of good." The constant scrutiny, endless comparisons, and weight of expectations had pushed even the world's greatest player to seek therapy. Every Clásico felt like more than a match. It was a global referendum on greatness. The rivalry turned El Clásico into the most heated fixture in football history. Opposing teams targeted these superstars relentlessly, making matches brutal affairs. Media and supporters had pitted them against each other for 2 decades, creating an industry built on their personal competition. For 15 years, they fed off each other's success like gladiators responding to every goal, every record, every achievement. Ronaldo later reflected, "I have no doubt that Lionel Messi has made me a better player and vice versa. When I am winning trophies, it must sting him, and it's the same for me when he wins." They created an obsession that consumed everything around them. When Ronaldo left Real Madrid in 2018, something died in football. Messi admitted, although it was difficult to see him win trophies, he gave La Liga prestige. By 2023, both had found peace. "The rivalry is gone," Ronaldo declared. "We shared the stage for 15 years. I'm not saying we're friends, I've never had dinner with him, but we're professional colleagues and we respect each other." These weren't just footballers, they were gladiators who turned sport into art, proving that the greatest rivalries don't always end in violence. Sometimes they evolve into mutual respect, leaving behind a legacy that changed football forever, but not without leaving scars that ran deeper than anyone knew. If you enjoyed this video, subscribe now and join true fans who crave the most intense, emotional, and fascinating football stories the game has ever produced.